Hi guys, hope you had a great Tuesday. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish up square root property. So tonight by 11:59 you have your square root property worksheet due. So don't forget about that. So let's talk a little bit about square root property just to recall what we've done the last 2 days and then go into those last few problems that you have on that worksheet. So square root property, again, you want to isolate the x squared when at all possible. Then you square root both sides because square root is the opposite of squaring something. So when I square root of x squared equals 36, the x squared is by itself. I square root both sides. This cancels right here. So I'm left with x equals positive or negative 6. When you're taking the square root of a number, remember it's plus or minus because 6 squared is 36 and negative 6 squared is 36. So both give you 36, which is why it's positive or minus. So let's talk about 2 types of problems you're going to see on your worksheet. So the last couple problems you're going to have look like this. So x plus 2 squared equals 16. As you notice, the whole binomial is squared. Different than here, and on this problem, just the x's were squared. So how do we handle this? Well, before I can do anything, I need to get rid of that squared sign. So I'm going to square root this entire thing here, and I'm going to square root that side. So this is different than the other problems that you've done before, because you're going to square root first, even though that plus 2 is there. So those are going to cancel, and I'm left with x plus 2 equals plus or minus 4. Okay, so x plus 2 equals plus or minus 4. People always get this confused with just an x squared problem, so make sure you're taking your time, making some notes, and working through things. Then from here, again, I'm going to have 2 answers. So here I separate it up into 2 problems. I get x plus 2 equals positive 4, and x plus 2 equals negative 4. Because those are my 2 type of answers I have from here. And then I just solve the linear. So I'm going to subtract 2, and I get x equals 2. And then I subtract 2, and I get x equals negative 6. So those are my 2 answers there. Again, when the whole binomial is squared, you have to square root first, and then from there, you separate up into 2 problems and solve. Okay, let's do one more here. Just something a little more complicated. This will probably be the hardest thing you'll see probably on your test, or any type of thing like this would be like this. I have 2 parentheses, x minus 1 squared, so that whole binomial squared. So going back to the last problem we did, minus 1 equals 17. So the first thing I'm going to do is isolate the binomial that's squared. So to do that, I'm going to add 1, and I get 2 x minus 1 squared equals 18. Okay. Then from there, I'm going to isolate. Again, there's an imaginary multiplication sign there. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And I'm left with x minus 1 squared equals 9. So x minus 1 squared equals 9. Then from there, just like the last problem, the whole binomial squared. So the opposite of squaring the whole thing is square rooting it. So I square root both sides from there. It cancels on the left side. So I'm left with x minus 1 equals plus or minus 3. Okay. Now I have plus or minus 3. So I separate up into my 2 equations. I get x minus 1 equals positive 3. Again, you don't need to put the positive 3 there, but it kind of helps. And then I get x minus 1 equals negative 3. I add 1 to either side, and I get x equals 4. I add 1, and I get x equals negative 2. Okay, so x equals 4, x equals negative 2. So this concludes square root property today. Thursday, we're going to move on to quadratic formula, and that's the last way we're going to learn how to solve a quadratic, because you'll know how to solve by factoring, by square root property, and then by the middle of next week, quadratic formula. Have a great day. Remember that homework assignment is due on by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Make sure you get that in, and hope to see you on Zoom. Thanks for stopping by, guys.